Greetings, Dr. Wolfula here to present a very important special audio presentation that your ears cannot dare unlisten to. Does that make sense? Oh, it doesn't matter. Listen to this.
Welcome to someone's favorite movie. We're coming to you from the Pod Shack outside beautiful Bay City, Michigan. My name is Randy, and with me is the world champion of the 1978 Frisbee tournament. His name is Tom Coe. Yes, you were one of the dogs. You used to be a dog.
I was going to say, it took forever for my brother to get me to figure out how to catch that damn thing.
Well, some people are slow learners, but you eventually caught on, and by God, you brought that trophy home. You brought it home. This week we're covering a family-friendly Disney classic, Flight of the Navigator. Now, this was your suggestion, Mr. Tom Coe. Why did you want to do this one?
Honestly, it was because I didn't really remember hardly anything about it. I remember the basic gist of a little kid gets abducted by aliens. He returns home, and it's, in his version of the future. But oddly enough, the only thing I remember with any kind of detail was when he was ordering the Big Mac and he asked for a Coke. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, that one thing stood out to me.
For me, I remember loving this movie as a kid. But I didn't really remember a whole lot about it until...
Yeah, I remembered liking this movie.
Yeah.
I only saw it the one time at the theater. I just remember liking it. And I don't know, after a little while, I guess I just felt like I had outgrown Disney movies.
Yeah. But as soon as I started watching this, it all came back to me like it was some sort of suppressed memory. And
that's cool.
I remember... I think it was kind of like a trauma that my child mind locked away because it was frightening for me. Because I remember distinctly the feeling I had when I first watched this and how terrified I was. Like, I seriously almost had a panic attack watching the beginning of this because
I could see that.
Because I remembered being a kid and watching this. Now, I grew up in the 80s, and if you weren't saying no to drugs, you were not talking to strangers. I mean, I think that's where I got my healthy antisocial personality from, was the doctrine of the 80s to never...
That would help explain so much.
Yes. I mean, never talk to strangers. Because apparently every kid ever was getting abducted by all these strangers. So, I mean, it was very, very scary in my mind at that time to be abducted or kidnapped or... they didn't even put your face on milk cartons in the 80s. You would be posted in the post office and no one would ever see you there.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember seeing this movie and the fact that he was lost and he went to his parents' house and they weren't the people he remembered. They were older. Just that whole discombobulation like really freaked me out as a kid. And it kind of carried over when I watched it again. I'm like, oh, this is some strong stuff here.
Yeah. I could definitely see where that would be a mind trip for a little kid. How old were you when you watched this?
Oh, probably 7 or 8.
Okay. Yeah, I was 8 when I watched it myself. I did not have that experience, though. I did not remember a dang thing. So... it was almost like a new movie to me.
Going into it, the only things that I remembered were the quote unquote alien spaceship had like what I remembered as like a eyeball on a stick that would
I did remember that.
Yes, and I remembered the ending with him showing the little stop motion animation alien that he kept. But I wasn't sure if I was actually remembering this movie or I was remembering Mac and Me. So
I could see that. Well, this is one of the very rare movies in this series where I've actually convinced Mrs. Tom Coe to sit down and watch it with me.
nice.
And she kept asking about other movies. Like, is this the one where they build their own spaceship and they go see the aliens? I'm like, no, hon, that was Explorers. Is this the one where I'm like, no, honey, that was Batteries May Be Included.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, I forgot just how many movies in the 80s involved very old and very young people and aliens.
Yeah, it's riding that ET wave, right?
It definitely is. I can't believe it's not a genre that's more talked about because it was really prevalent during that time.
Well, let's face it, they don't really make kid movies like this for kids anymore.
No, they don't.
Which is a shame because that was a big part of our childhoods. And it's
Absolutely it was.
It's a shame that it doesn't exist for the newer generations. My wife came in when I was watching this and she said, "Oh, I kind of want to watch this with you," and because I'm a dick and I started watching it without her, and she's like, she stood there for like 5-10 minutes watching it, and she's like, "You know what? I think the kids would really like this movie," and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I think you're right. I think they would really dig this."
How'd it go over?
Well, I haven't shown it to them yet,
Okay.
but I'm pretty sure they would like it quite a bit because I think it's a movie that would hold up to attention spans today.
Story-wise, yes. I think any kid would really enjoy this movie, but I'm wondering how the kids' reactions would be to the special effects. Because for the day, they looked really good.
They did.
There were a couple of shots, like when the ship first opened and you have that matte painting to make it look like the inside of the ship appears so much larger than it does on the outside.
Mhm.
I thought that was really good. But then you also have some really bad special effects in this movie. It's like the effect that they had for the door opening and the stairs descending.
Right, yeah.
It looked like a silver turd taking a dump.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Yeah, it's kind of unfair because this generation is growing up watching Marvel movies, which is the biggest budgets that any movie has ever had thrown at them. Mm-hmm. So it's the very best special effects possible. So we were watching, I think it was The Rocketeer not too long ago, and they were kind of laughing at how cheap some of the scenes looked. So I can imagine them also remarking about the scenes in this one. I don't think it would necessarily take away from all the enjoyment of the movie, but yeah, I'm sure they would.
No, but there were some things where you kind of had to make a bit of a leap in imagination. It's like a lot of the aerial shots and the underwater shots you could tell were not filmed for this movie, but they had it on that projector screen, so in your mind's eye, it fits, unless you really look at it.
Yeah. At its heart, it's a movie about a kid, and he's a normal kid. He's got this dog that's the worst at catching frisbees, and he's got a crush on the neighborhood sweetheart, and he's got an annoying brother with the big glasses that every movie seemed to have in the 80s, and then he had the white bread all-American mom and dad. And then all of a sudden, he goes in the woods to find his dog. He gets lost. He gets scared by his brother. He leaves the woods, comes back home, and someone else is living inside of his house.
And that's the part where it felt like a little kid version of the Twilight Zone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a surreal, creepy little nightmare.
Exactly, yeah. And I could see why this part in particular would give you anxiety.
Yeah. I mean, and the people that are there call the cops, and the cops bring him to his parents who thought he was dead somewhere, and he's hospitalized. They're running all these tests, and then he meets his grown-up brother that's, that tells him that David, the main character, should be 20 right now, and it's 1986.
Well, I thought it was actually a nice little touch that in 1978, his little brother was 4 years younger than him, and in 1986, he's 4 years older than he is.
Yeah.
I just thought that was like I said, a nice little touch.
Yeah. I mean, if we went missing for 5 years and came back, I don't think there would be much of a difference. Everybody would still pretty much look the same. I mean, let's face it, I don't know any bands to begin with, so I wouldn't be amazed by any new ones. But I mean, if you're a kid in the 70s and all of a sudden you woke up and it was 1986, that would be kind of disconcerting, I would think.
That would be the future, literally, because think of how quickly technology changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And honestly, one thing that I think this movie could have maybe hit home a little bit more is the effects that the events had on the family.
Yeah.
They did touch on it a little bit, and I thought it was actually fairly well handled when they were introducing the 16-year-old version of Jeff.
Yeah. And
the thing that he said was, "I'm sorry for scaring you." Because you could tell that weighed on that kid for quite a while.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you don't know how he was treated by his parents, if his parents blamed him,
or if he blamed himself.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I thought that this was a very, very effective opening.
Yeah. So he's taken in by the army. Well, when he's doing these tests, they hook him up to machines, and all of a sudden he starts spitting out binary code and building spaceship blueprints with his mind. And their doctors are like, "Oh, something's wrong here."
Yep, back in the days when the term binary code sounded so mysterious.
Right. What is this magical language with which you speak? And every laboratory and even Rocky had a robot assistant, so why not? This movie had to have one too, a Ralph.
Yes.
It cracks me up how this was a thing in the 80s. Like, I mean, I guess I have one too. It's called a Roomba. It vacuums for me.
Yeah, but it doesn't talk to you or bring you shit.
No, not yet.
Lazy ass Roomba.
I know. Get it together. So it's just a mooch on this household, I'll tell you what.
Now, one of the things that you skipped over is the crash scene.
Mm-hmm.
Right when the main character, Davy, wakes up, a mysterious aircraft crashes into an electronics tower. And, the government, being what it is, decides to immediately confiscate it and take it back for research. Only in this movie, they did it in the most conspicuous way humanly possible. They threw a sheet over it and just put it on the back of a flatbed.
Sure. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about it.
I don't know why, but I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But again, this is a kid's movie. The main audience isn't supposed to think about that.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw it, I wasn't. Yeah.
I was very forgiving with this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. When David goes on the other thing that quickly hit me when I started watching this, and especially when David started interacting with the spaceship, I remembered thinking as a kid, well, this is weird. How come this spaceship sounds like Pee Wee Herman? Because
yes, that was at the height of Pee Wee mania.
Spoilers, but at a certain point, the spaceship scans David's mind for star charts and kind of takes a piece of his personality with it. And
you know what? I actually completely forgot, because I remember the goofy voice. I didn't remember it was actually Pee Wee Herman. I just remember the weird, corny humor.
Yeah.
And when they first open up the ship, it's very calm, calculated, logical. Basically, it's Mr. Spock.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how they got to the goofy voice, but I thought that was actually really clever.
Yeah, I did too, quite honestly. Yeah. I'm like, well, all of a sudden the spaceship is part kind of logical man-child
but
ridiculous.
also part little kid.
Yeah. And it surprises me that, well, okay, the voice of the spaceship is credited as Paul Mall, but it was actually Paul Rubens, who was Pee Wee Herman. And it's amazing to me that he went full on Pee Wee Herman at times with that voice.
I know. I'd figure that he would want to kind of protect that, but chances are that's how he got the gig.
Probably. I mean, I don't know. It seems like if you're going to do it, you just be like credited as either Paul Rubens or Pee Wee Herman.
Well, you got to also remember at that time, nobody knew who the hell Paul Rubens was. They just knew Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah. That's a valid point. This was right around the time of Pee Wee's Playhouse, I think. So
yeah, and up until a little incident at a movie theater, people really didn't know who played Pee Wee Herman. He was just Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, and I worship Pee Wee Herman. I had Pee Wee Herman toys, for crying out loud.
Oh, I'm retroactively disrespecting you.
Well, I was 8, Tom Coe. All right.
Okay, but I wasn't that much older when Pee Wee's Playhouse started, and maybe I was just the most self-serious 9 and 10-year-old kid out there, but I could not stand it.
Actually, I was younger than 8. I was probably 6 or 7. I don't know.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah, because that would have been the mid '80s, and I was born in '81, so I would have been a little bit younger. But yeah, I had all the toys, and I love Pee Wee Herman, much to the chagrin of my parents who just didn't get it.
You ever have one of those moments, Randy, where you kind of step back and look at the situation, and you think to yourself, "Wow, this is why I was bullied."
I mean, I wasn't really bullied ever.
Oh, well, you should have been.
Oh, I would just do my Pee Wee voice, and people would laugh and think I was the best.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, that's how I made friends.
Another person that we are definitely glossing over in this is Sarah Jessica Parker, fresh off of Square Pegs.
Yeah, very fresh-faced Sarah Jessica Parker. And when she was on screen was when my wife walked in, Pookie, my wife, whom I adore, and she said, "Oh, she was adorable when she was younger."
Yeah, she was a cute young lady.
Yeah. I had no idea she was in this, quite honestly.
But she did make one of the oddest choices I've ever seen an actor take.
Okay.
Where she's playing a low-level staff member at a NASA prison camp.
Yes. Yeah, that's basically what it was.
I'm generous to say she's 18 years old, thus legally employable.
Sure.
And she's flirting with a 12-year-old.
I know. Yeah, I thought that was weird too.
And, my wife's looking at me, she's like, well, the little boy isn't exactly innocent. And I'm like, well, you know what? He's being a little boy.
He's being a little boy. Quite. Yeah, he's absolutely.
She's a grown-ass adult.
Right. I know. But I mean, that's how you know this movie was aimed at little boys, because
exactly
that would have been any little boy. They would have been so smitten in that situation.
And oddly enough, another movie that was based around that entire concept also starred Howard Hessman.
Well, which one was that?
I believe it was called Private Lessons.
Ooh, I'm not sure I'm familiar with that one.
And it's a comedy.
Okay.
About, God, I can't even remember her name, Mary Kay Letourneau.
Oh, man.
It's basically a comedic version of the Mary Kay Letourneau story.
Okay.
We'll have to save that for the list.
Yeah, I think so. That sounds interesting. Wow. Oof.
But as far as this movie goes, I could definitely see why little kids would just eat this up. This was a fun movie to watch.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, I had a good time with it. It never felt dull or slow. I didn't feel like it was dumbed down for me or anything.
Well, some of it was.
Yeah, but I knew it's going in.
NASA is supposed to be this, highly funded, incredibly efficient organization, and they don't put a, security camera on the kid.
Well,
and the guards are too busy playing cards.
You know, guards are always playing cards.
Yeah. And again, I hate to be the guy that's always pissing and moaning, but the way I actually chose to view this movie was I was trying to explain the movie to the wife, because I don't think she'd ever heard of it. So I was on Google. I typed up Flight of the Navigator, just hoping to get like a poster to send to her.
Yeah.
And one of the very first things I saw was that they're planning a remake of this as a series on Disney Plus.
I did see that, yeah.
And I guess it's going to be directed by Bryce Dallas Howard. Is that her name?
Yeah. Yeah, Ron Howard's daughter.
And while I'm watching this, I'm thinking, okay, this is a really good story, but there is room for improvement. If they could just tweak a little bit here and a little bit there, it could be a phenomenal story to put out there.
I think so too. I mean, it was just recently announced last September, so I mean, it's very much in pre-production probably, but yeah, I'm interested to see what they do with it and how they update it, and hopefully they're not ridiculous about it. Hopefully, like, the spaceship isn't some jive talking, I don't know, hip hop artist or something,
Well, the other thing I was wondering is, when would they have it take place? Would it be contemporary or would it be in the past? Because a big part of the third act is, Dave's journey from, what was it, Tokyo to Florida.
Yeah.
And he's trying to figure out how to get there.
Uh-huh.
In the days of Google Earth, is that really a challenge?
Yeah, right.
I mean, literally all you have to do is go straight up, point down and say to yourself, okay, that's Florida.
Yeah. Part of me thinks they'll probably take the route of the kid got lost in the 70s or 80s and was transported to the present day. I'm sure that's going to be the conceit of it.
Yeah. But no, I think that this is one of the very few times I'm actually genuinely interested in a remake, because as much as I enjoyed this, I think that you could do some tweaks to it.
Yeah. Joey Cramer played David Freeman in this movie, the main character.
He was actually really good.
He was, yeah, I agree. He was really good in this. And he beat out names such as Joaquin Phoenix and Chris O'Donnell to land the role.
Really?
Yeah.
I wonder if those guys went on to rob a bank.
Yeah, his story didn't end so greatly.
No.
That
was the other thing I noticed when I typed Flight of the Navigator into Google. The very first thing was his mugshot.
Yeah, unfortunately, he went down that child actor hole where things don't always work out so well.
Yeah, it's too bad.
There's actually a documentary on his life after. It's called Life After Navigator. It's on Tubi for free. You can watch it.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't watch it.
I was going to say, I don't know if I want to, because it just sounds depressing.
I don't want to see somebody's life spiral out of control like that. That's not.
Exactly. I've already seen one Data Plano docudrama.
Yeah.
I don't need to see another version of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have nothing bad to say about this movie. I really don't.
No. And can I just say, it's so nice to have this change of pace where we're both actually genuinely enthusiastic about the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't happen often.
No, it doesn't. But when it does, it fires on gang, but straight ahead. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I mean,
yes, it is dated. If I could point out, and again, I'm trying not to be too much of a dick with this because it's a little kids movie, but
right.
I really hated the score.
Oh yeah, yeah, the score is
all
garbage.
The things in this movie that were dated, that one was the worst by far.
How about the logistics? The logistics of the fact that Max, the spaceship, lets young David keep the small alien thing on Earth. We don't know anything about this alien. We don't know what it eats.
I was saying the same thing to my wife. How is David supposed to know what the hell this thing eats and drinks?
Yeah, it could eat babies for all we know. We don't know what kind of diseases it
have.
That,
doesn't exist on this planet, and the poor thing's going to starve.
Yeah, yeah. We don't know. We don't know if it's going to become an invasive species or or mate with like a crocodile and develop into some superhuman beastly crossbreed.
Way to go, Pee Wee. You just destroyed the ecosystem for us.
God, you uncaring son of a bitch.
And you know, the other thing that popped in my head when I'm watching this is it's kind of fucked up that the machine, you know, that Max let Dave remember the events.
Right, yeah.
Just think of the anxiety and the mental complexes that this kid is going to be developing over at least the next 8 years, if not more.
Yeah, I mean, he's seen his parents older and his brother older, and
he's the boy who looked into the future.
Yeah.
And the future didn't blink.
Hey, but you know what the good thing is?
What's that?
By the time he ages up to 1986, he'll have a shot with that sweet nurse there.
You know what? They would be about the same age.
Yeah. That's the first thing I would do in 1986. Be like, hey, girl, hey, remember?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I think that this story is really ripe for exploring in a long format because, I mean, you can't have anything that's too complex for a 1980s movie that doesn't quite clock in at an hour and a half. But there's a lot of things that they could explore, you know, a lot of questions that are raised.
Yeah, I mean, they don't really go into any backstory behind the aliens that created the spaceship.
Or what the other aliens are, just other than a visual gag.
Yeah. Basically, the whole thing is he says that he takes species from planets to study them and then take them back, and they never really know that they've been gone, which is kind of creepy, too.
I was going to say, that's a dick move.
Yeah. You creep. How about free will? How about asking my permission first?
Exactly.
Ugh. You can't just kidnap me like that and do what you will and put me back.
At least wine and dine me first.
Yeah. That's all I ask.
Oh, just a movie and a Happy Meal. I'm not hard to get along with.
No, not at all. But yeah, they could go into the entire backstory of what the end game for this race is, why they were doing it, who built it, like, I don't know. What
the end goal is, yeah. I would be very interested in seeing that kind of fleshed out.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a very complex movie, but I think if you saw it, you would enjoy it, dear listeners.
Yes, this is one of the very few unconditional recommendations I would make to our listeners, at least in what feels like forever.
Yeah, it's been a long time, hasn't it?
It has been.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we devoted so much damn time to Halloween and other franchises, and, you know, there's peaks and valleys in all of those.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have just one solid peak.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. We're getting back to the weird stuff soon.
Of course we are. We're us.
Yes. Yeah. But, yeah, this was a nice diversion. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Thank you for indulging me, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you for the trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
It was like I got abducted by the spaceship and I completely forgot about it, but then I remembered and I was like, oh.
Yep, I'm glad I rewatched this. I was kind of nervous because the last movie like this that I went back and watched again was Explorers. And oh, fuck, that movie does not hold up.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Don't.
I won't. I refuse.
I mean, yeah, you have a young River Phoenix in it, but oh my God, you also have the hideous foam aliens.
I have a aching desire to rewatch Intervision?
Inner Space?
Inner Space. Why did I say Intervision? What a dummy. That doesn't even make sense. Yeah, Inner Space.
I rewatched that not too many years ago. That's another one that holds up like gangbusters.
Does it? That's cool. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that one when I was a kid too, and I thought, man, I might want to rewatch that one sometime. I think we can wrap it up. I mean, I don't think there's much more we can add to that.
No. Other than, you know what, it's well worth the monthly subscription for Disney Plus if I can find a couple more gems like this.
Yeah. Tell people where they can find you on this World Wide Web.
If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Twitter at a little spot called at the Drunken Dork. On Facebook, I've kind of am sort of still on there. But if you want to reach out to me there, you can find me at a little page called Jake and Tom Conquer the Group. And you can listen to me on a somewhat infrequent basis on a little show called Jake and Tom Conquer the World. What about you, Randall?
You can find me on Twitter at mretailslave or a big dumb comedy show called Miserable Retail Slave. We're number 9 in Barbados, baby.
Oh, shit. Does that mean that you could probably go there and live like a king?
I want to. That's my entire dream now. We've been in the top 10 in Barbados for like 3 months. It's great.
Oh, my God.
I know. Celebrity status. What?
I just want to be your flunky down there.
Yeah. Also a Seinfeld rewatch podcast called That's a Shame, which I just got done recording 2 episodes of before I started talking to you, Mr. Tom Coe. So that's
excellent.
That's happening. Coming up for us. Oh my gosh. So my wife indulged me and let me subscribe to the Vinegar Syndrome year-long package.
The what?
Vinegar Syndrome is a company that releases all the underappreciated gems, a lot of horror and forgotten films that they rescue and kind of archive so they're not forgotten and put out to the masses. They're the reason I found Tammy and the T-Rex.
Now, is this a streaming service or is this like a physical media thing?
Physical media. So my wife let me subscribe to the year-long package, so whatever they put out, I will receive in the mail.
That sounds like a hell of a Christmas present to yourself, sir.
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of weird nonsense coming up, rest assured.
You know what? Sign me up.
Yes.
Because for every Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, you find a gem like, what was it? The movie with the slasher that fell in love.
Oh, Unmasked, Part 25.
Yes.
Which also came...
That is a weird ass movie that I probably would never pick up on a store shelf.
Yeah, and also that came from Vinegar Syndrome. So we owe a lot to them. Coming up though, we're gonna do another franchise. It'll probably be our last franchise for quite a while. But we're covering the Scream franchise. Tom Coe, you excited about this?
You know what? I am curious about it. I loved the original Scream back in the day. I think I was probably the perfect age to watch that. I had just gotten out of high school. And I bought the box sets as soon as they were available on DVD and digital. I have not gone back and rewatched the sequels since seeing them at the theater, though.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
I don't have a lot of good memories, but I'm willing to give them another spin.
I've watched them all twice this year already.
Damn.
So, yeah.
All right. You know what? I'm going to take that as a good omen.
And I've seen the new one, and I'll talk about that too.
All right. I look forward to that.
All right. After that, we'll be covering more nonsense. Not sure what we're going to do quite yet, but I'm sure something will bubble up.
You know what? Once we're off the air, I'll make a suggestion.
Okay.
All
okay.
right.
Tom Coe's got all these suggestions.
I do.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to someone's favorite movie. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.